instead of worrying about continual endless growth in a very capitalistic sort of mindset.
We can't just do why not do the thing that appeals to the internal group, to other leftists? Like, say what you want about, like, oh, capitalist growth. You want your movement to grow.
So I'm at an
okay,
airport,
this is
and
not.
the
It's
lady is
totally
poor.
reasonable.
We'll talk about that later. But more
Phenomenal.
importantly, I wanted to talk about the fact that I'm a fan of leftist streamer Hassan. I don't think he's perfect.
Yes.
I don't always agree with him, but I like him quite a lot, and I think he does a lot of really good work. And I think he's a good egg. I think he's a real good egg overall. But recently, because this is online, he got into a bit of drama, as happens sadly a lot with content creators, and shout out to FD Signifier's great recent video on this topic, by the way. But this drama was about how he, Hassan, wanted to play on his stream a certain wizarding game, controversial for reasons that I spoke about in a recent video, in order to raise money for transgender charities. To try to use a game that is
thanks, Epic Games. I appreciate that.
That is owned by an anti-trans bigot doing active harm to trans people, to fight back by doing a charity stream to try to make money for trans people, those she is directly harming. Honestly and truly, I think that is a fantastic impulse. It's a kind one, it's a caring one, it's one that shows he has a desire to do good, to help, to be kind, and to try to make change, that is his first desire. And I think that speaks all very well of him and who he is and what he tries to do with his work and his platform. And I'm sure if he did do that charity stream, that it would make a lot of money for transgender charities, which is awesome. However, there is an issue.
Okay.
He is
What's
a
the
leader
issue?
for many in many communities, not just the...
Okay, and again, what do we got? I did see your message. I just hadn't read all the way through because I'm a slow reader and also trying to do other things. Yeah, so I lean right, but I don't have anything against LBJ. I do remember you were kind of on. I do remember last time we talked. Early, I'd say I don't think, however, all the J.K. Rowling views on transgenderism are unreasonable. And even if you think it goes too far, I'm against censorious cancel outrage regardless. We will talk about that. How about this? How about this? How about this? I have an idea. Let me get through this video, and then why don't you and me have a little chat about that? We'll kind of yuck it up on that topic, because I'm kind of curious about your perspective on this one. As somebody who's a little bit more on the right-leaning side, I want to get kind of a right perspective that isn't... I cover a lot of Matt Walsh. I cover a lot of like pundits, a lot of commentators. I want like a normal person's read on some of this stuff. So we'll chat about that. I think if you're up to it.
The leftist community, but the streamer community and many others, including a leader for many trans people. And I see a lot of folks, including other streamers or even transgender streamers, say, oh, well, if he can play the game, then I can. And then I see other people who look up to those streamers and leaders and say, oh, if they can play it, then I can donate to trans charities and play it myself. But here's the thing. Now that
Seems
everyone
reasonable.
here has bought and played the transphobes game and gave it more money and attention...
Okay. So let me start with my first thing. I don't really like... Okay. I'm not as a leftist, as somebody who doesn't buy into the capitalist structure or mindset of ownership over like any kind of like product like this. I don't know if it's necessarily fair to say it's a transphobes game, only really because J.K. Rowling as an author, you know, as a sole author of a book, you know, she has a lot of agency and a lot of say over what ends up in that piece of literature, right? But that is not the case when we're talking about like a video game that probably hundreds, if not like, you know, I'm not sure how big the actual dev team is, but like a bare minimum, you got to figure there's like 50 to 100 people, not including like just marketing, who are working on this game constantly and trying to put out a game that is fun for fans of the universe, regardless of, you know, J.K. Rowling's political ideology. I do think there is a certain amount of, I think, separation we owe to the developers of this game, in order to, you know, not implicate people by the fact that they work as a development house. They are probably fans of the Harry Potter property and want to deliver a game that people can enjoy. I don't like that. I get it. I get it. She is going to make money from this, but she's already kind of made a lot of money. We've already given her this platform. So there is a bit of aspect of that like I understand the reaction, the like, oh, the person who's going to make a lot of money off of this is the transphobe. Well, yeah, they've always been making money off of everything Harry Potter. But we can't, like, I don't think it's fair to tell people to stop enjoying or consuming a piece of media just because the person at the top is, making money. I mean, they're also, us buying stuff isn't even the extent anymore for the money she makes. We're talking rights deals. We're talking like anybody who shows up to, I think it's Universal Studios down in Florida. It's a theme park with a Harry Potter section. But J.K. Rowling gets paid for every ticket that like you get in, that people pay for to get into that theme park. But we wouldn't say to people, don't go to the theme park, because like a small piece of your like entry ticket is going to go to her because she has an entire section based on her creative property. I don't think that's fair either. Moral consumption is, I think it's a tricky one, and I think sometimes can be applicable. I don't know if this is, I don't agree that this is one of the cases that it can, but let's just continue. Let's hear out the thing.
And validity, that's what you've used your platforms to do, to give validity to this game, to say it is okay. It makes her relevant, it makes her platform and franchise relevant, and allows her to keep justifying and causing harm to the transgender community. And also keeps telling the people in charge of this franchise that yes, they can still make stuff within it and make money while she's still doing her horrible stuff. And I'm not just talking about generally in our culture today, but I'm saying that this is happening within our own space.
What's up with the mic? My mic is great. Try to reload maybe. Nope, audio still isn't working. Would it be too much for you to type in chat what your issue is? Okay, back. It's working. Okay, cool. Okay, we're good. Okay, cool.
Spaces that are supposed to be directly transgender supportive. Yes, the world sucks. Yes, it's breaking streaming records, and that sucks. But it doesn't mean that we have to replicate that economy within our own spaces that are supposed to be safe for trans people. It supports her economy, not ours, not the marginalized, not trans.
There's no, come on. Okay. There's no such thing as anybody's individual economy. There's individual bank accounts, but her economy, I mean, okay.
Gender peoples, and it normalizes in everyday discussions and discourses, keeping her and her platform in our attention, in our mind, in our culture, and we need to not do that. We don't use the tools of the oppressor to take down the oppressor.
But how do you, okay, but this is the thing. How do you separate J.K. Rowling from Harry Potter? She's not dead. And she's actively gone out of her way to tie herself not only to the success of this individual video game, but to the identity, in a way, like she's tied herself so much to Harry Potter, which any writer normally would, but she doesn't like allow fans to separate those two. There is no, I don't think there's really an ability to to invoke death of the author in this case. So what do? Never engage with Harry Potter anything? Like never read, never visit Pottermore, never watch any of the new movies, never read any of the new books, never anything, even if it's not written directly by her. Like, I don't know what this, like, to me, I end up coming down to it. It's like, okay, if you could snap your fingers and like erase Harry Potter from everyone's collective memory, then maybe we can have a conversation here. But we all know that can't happen. Harry Potter isn't going anywhere. So the question becomes, how do you consume that in a way that you can feel better about it? I just, I don't, anyway, we'll just move on. Let's keep going.
I'm not saying we're going to be able to take down the oppressor today, but playing that game is playing on her and transphobic terms. This is what I and others talk about when we say don't play the wizarding game. It's not that you are a bad person or a bigot if you do, but what it's doing is not actually supporting trans people, and it's not being an active ally or accomplice to the transgender community. even if you do use it to try to do good things. We fight on our terms, not theirs. And a lot of people said this to Hassan, and good on him, he decided not to do the stream, which I think is a correct thing, but a few things have happened in...
Didn't he also not do the stream because he actively didn't want to get bullied by people? I do believe that was kind of the thing, is it was like, no, I'm not streaming the game, not because I don't want to play it, I don't want to stream it because I don't feel like getting harassment from people. Because unfortunately, that's what ends up happening. Girlfriend Reviews did a stream where they played Hogwarts Legacy, I guess, and like one of the creators of that channel had to, the girlfriend in name had to step away from the stream because people were harassing them, were being like very, very toxic about it. And it's like, what are you're fighting harm with other harm? Like I don't know what people got out of that. Like, I don't know what good that created in absence of them not playing the game. Like, if anything, more like less people would be convinced to your side as an ally, or even as a trans person acting that kind of way. Like, it's just you know, and obviously there's a case where, you know, people troll, and there's no way to verify any of this, but there's no way to argue that on the left there hasn't been an issue with this game and with the idea of people simply playing it for the sake of playing a video game and not being able to separate those two things.
The discourse after that fact. First, people have said Hassan was bullied into not playing the game by transgender people. I'm sure many people were assholes to Hassan during this. Some of them
that would be called bullying,
being trans.
And most likely, yes, because trans people can be bullies too.
For his initial impulse to play the transphobic game to help trans people, and that really sucks because his intention was good. Don't harass streamers for playing the game. His intent was a good one. His hope was an earnest one. His desire was a good one. We don't use the tools of the oppressor to fight oppression. Oppressors harass. Oppressors view things in binary and essentialist...
But that's what's happening. I mean, we can say we don't do that, and we can say it's not okay, but it is what's happening. Like, there's no way to really spin this in any other way or say it in any other way, but it is what's happening. Like, there are streamers who are playing the game who are catching a lot of harassment from people online for playing the game, astroturfed or not.
Terms and want to create antagonism, and they want us to do the exact same thing to each other. While we fight oppressors, while not harassing them, we don't do that to each other. We create dialogues. We work with our community and between communities in kindness, and don't essentialize one's actions, but create meaningful conversations with each other based on the understanding that we are imperfect people imperfectly fighting a horrid system that hurts us all. Also, by framing the discussion as if trans people bullied him by saying that that was the overriding thing, which may even be completely true, it's ignoring the valid critiques that were being made, like the ones that I hopefully articulated earlier. And it frames the discussion in terms of
critiques can't really be bullying, can they?
Marginalized, against trans people. It frames trans people as the aggressors in this entire situation, as if we're the hateful, hurtful ones, when in actuality, we're the ones being harmed in all of this.
In fact, it's also very important to point out that
I feel like okay, I'll be real. That feels like a cop-out. I kind of feel that like that's a bit of a cop-out. To say like, hey, there are like, you know, you can't frame us in this way. First of all, nobody said all trans people. Keffel specifically was saying that there were people who were harassing Hassan, harassing other streamers. Like, this isn't something that we can just pretend that didn't happen in the trans community, coming out of the trans community and the LGBT community for that matter broadly, like in a way that was like justifiable. Like I understand there's a certain amount of there's a feeling, or not a feeling, there's an understanding that a lot of activism on the like specifically trans activism is self-defense. A lot of even radical rhetoric is self-defense. This, I'm not sure this is one of those cases that applies to that that's this specific situation. I just don't think it does. People are going to play a game. You're not going to, there's no amount of Hassan not playing the game that is going to materially change how many people play Hogwarts Legacy, right? Like there's no way to lower that number in a meaningful way outside of your own personal purchase or not. Like, to me, it's just one of these things where it's like, who are we fighting and why are we fighting them? Like, why are we bothering with this kind of pushback? It also buys into J.K. Rowling's entire like self-aggrandizing perspective. She already thinks that if you spend $1 on anything Harry Potter, specifically this game, but anything Harry Potter, that you are validating her political opinions. You should actively fight that and not reinforce that, because she is doing damage. She is doing harm to others by tying her political ideology, her political perspectives onto people who want nothing to do with them. Like, if anything, that's the harmful part of this that I personally find to be really gross. Like, that's where the first actual hurt comes from, in my opinion. For all of her takes, for everything else, she didn't have the grace to leave people the room to enjoy media without her being involved. It's a selfish, self-centered mind's view. And we just validate that. We let her have that. We say, yes, she is right. If you buy this game, you're validating any of her politics. We're not giving people the space to buy the game and disagree with her, which I don't think from a political standpoint is very smart, but from an interpersonal one, it's also just rather like short-sighted, I think, and kind of mean to a degree, depending on how you approach it. But
one of the biggest right-wing disinformation campaigns about transgender people is that we're all bullies trying to control what you say or do.
And they canceled her because she said in an interview, and this is not
after the
said,
segment,
but effectually, she said gender was a fact. And then the trans community got mad as they started calling her a TERF. I didn't even know what that was. But I know that trans people make up words to win arguments.
The way that you can tell who holds all the power in a society is by who you can't make.
I remember talking to my friends, and one of them was like, Dave Chappelle's funny, and I'm like, he is, when he's not a transphobe. Because what's the joke? That Dave Chappelle isn't aware of terminology? Like, the joke is like Dave Chappelle, like, this is my thing with the Dave Chappelle stuff, and I'm only going to talk about it very briefly. The reason why Dave Chappelle got so much pushback is because he's an amazing comedian, except when he covers gay or like LGBT issues, because he's wholly ignorant of them. And the joke is that he's ignorant of them. Like, that's the joke. Like you laugh at like the haha, I don't know what this thing is, haha. You're laughing to like you're laughing out of like a what's the word I'm looking for? An understanding that was supposed to be a punchline, but it wasn't funny. So you laugh to kind of fill that void of space when he pauses. But there's nothing funny about it. It's like, oh, I don't even know what a TERF is. It's like, all right, Google it. Like, okay. And it's like, oh, people make up words. Like, well, no, it's an anagram for something. It's like if somebody was like, oh, the DOJ did this thing, and they went, huh, DOJ. I don't even know what that is. Just make up words. It's like, no, you just aren't educated. You're just kind of dumb. And like, it's just not funny. So like, that's why he got a lot of the flack he got. And he insisted
right? That's right. So
on it too. So it's like,
speech is violence, their violence is speech. See how that works? What's interesting is that the number of people who really care about this issue enough to assault someone over it is tiny. And yet they have disproportionate power. 350 million people in the country, maybe 1,100 feel that way, but they're running everything. Why is that?
running
Most trans
everything.
People are just saying this casually.
I love when they say running everything.
like I hopefully am trying to be myself.
And it's like, yeah,
And yet the
totally
narrative always
trans Joe
focuses on the
Biden.
loudest, most vitriolic voices in order to create a narrative around trans people. Now,
Yep.
I'm not saying that this is what Hassan is intentionally doing, but constantly framing trans people as bullies who are coming to attack you ultimately supports framing trans people as harassers and bullies, which ultimately feeds into the right-wing narrative around transgender people that frames us as the aggressors when really...
So here's the problem. Here's the issue I have with this. Then how do you critique something that this group does internally? Because that's the question that it comes down to it. Hassan specifically says, like he already said, like, yes, like people aren't playing the game because they want to avoid bullying. There's going to be trolls who pretend to be part of this community and concerned, but there is a large segment of the community that is concerned about this game. So it's like, how do you address that issue from within the community without like catching the, oh, you're framing this in an unfair way? And it's like, well, I'm framing it in a way that's unfair to you because you're being unfair. Like, I understand the concept of like negative framing and not and not buying into right-wing narratives, but, and this is a big part, it's also all about how you communicate that. And Hassan, from what I've seen, has been rather responsible in the way he's communicated it. Same with most people. And I mean, it just, you know, like overall, it's like we can't just not call this out because it's not good. It's not good to harass people because you disagree with the game that they're playing, especially over something where it's like, we knew this game was coming out. Like, this game has been ruined. You know, we knew the release date and everything else. This should have already, like, this conversation should have been had before the game came out. And I think people should have already been ready to be like, okay, look, there are some people who disagree with me. They're just going to play the game. It's fine. They're not doing any of the things that I'm concerned that they're doing. Like, Hassan has a long history of advocating for trans rights. So I think this is one of those cases where it's like, I mean, you're not even giving the guy the flowers that he's already earned. Like, I think he's done enough in terms of being an ally where it's like, look, this, I'm going to disagree with you on this, but like, understand that like that doesn't mean that we need to go scorched earth or anything. Like, we should be able to handle these kind of internal disagreements on the left internally and not make it into like a all or nothing sort of game.
We are the ones being victimized. And by the way, I'm not saying that Hassan is contributing to this narrative intentionally, but certain people are taking it that way. Just like right-wing folks are currently using the fact that one streamer started crying after some mild pushback from her community about her playing Hogwarts Legacy, using it.
Yeah, that was Girlfriend Reviews, a 1 million+ subscriber YouTube channel, and one that took a lot of heat after their Last of Us Part 2 video came out. Like, if you want to talk about somebody who, like, you look bad from a political standpoint going after them and creating that outcome, this is not the channel to do so. Like, Girlfriend Reviews has been a great channel in terms of, like, being an ally for what little bit that they can. But this, like, I saw the video. It was not great. Like, their chat was being actively mean.
Also, these discourses make it about individuals, the person who's being bullied by the transes, instead of about the actual trans community, the entire group of people that is being harmed.
There we go.
It also forgets that trans people are harassed like
now
this
I can see
on
that,
the
man.
daily.
Are we not?
Just
Oh my
for
god,
being
we're not on
trans online.
I'm not saying
We're
all
doing
trans people are acting
1.25.
perfectly.
1.5 is my brain won't. My brain doesn't process that quickly. Gains, maybe not like you, but my brain, I need 1.25.
Others, and that sucks. It is awful, and we shouldn't be doing it. No one should be doing it. But a lot of trans people
That was
are
already
hurting
on
right now.
1.5.
We're imperfect people fighting a horrid system imperfectly. That's not to forgive them. It's not to say it's okay. But it's the understanding that we have to have when you have a marginalized group being attacked.
You probably should.
And I know the criticism to this video
probably
will be,
should forgive
well,
people.
if he plays Hogwarts Legacy, then maybe people who might be watching an anti-trans streamer might watch him instead. But my argument back to that would be, instead of worrying about continual endless growth in a very capitalistic sort of mindset, why not worry about modeling how to fight for trans people and platform trans people to your audience? Be a champion to the audience you are.
Well, because this is like how coalition building works. We can't just do why not do the thing that appeals to the internal group, to other leftists? Like, say what you want about, like, oh, capitalist growth. You want your movement to grow. Like, do you not want the movement to grow to people who aren't just already leftists? I certainly do. But to do that, you have to appeal to more than just the left spectrum. Like, yes, in this case, we do want capitalist style growth in our movement. I think that's absolutely what we want.
And hey, who knows, maybe by taking a stand, doing something different than the already tons of other people playing Hogwarts Legacy on the platform, you'll make your audience grow anyways, by being someone different, by showing them a different way forward that's positive and helpful.
But second, I also hear now that Hassan is not going to do anything. He's not going to do a trans charity stream. At least that's what I know at the time of this filming. Maybe that's changed. He's not going to play any game or talk about transgender issues during this time. But we don't, as activists, do things because people were dicks or because things are awful all the time. We don't be reactive. We be proactive. And being proactive means realizing you don't need the wizard game to do a transgender charity stream. You can just do a transgender charity stream. The wonderful video.
I really don't. I don't think they're being necessarily unfair, but I'm not crazy how there's always like a cop out of like, oh, well, you know, like, oh, they've decided, fine, I'm just not going to engage with it right now because it's just kind of a toxic topic. Then it's like, nope, you still have to do, like, there's always, like, the bar moving is a bit irritating to me.
USA's Jacob Geller did one actually late last year playing sword video games and raised thousands of dollars. Hell, the most effective trans charity stream that I'm personally aware of was of Donkey Kong 64, a game that is decades old at this point. You can just do a transgender charity stream.
Love Donkey Kong 64.
You don't need to play any specific game. In fact, even better, you can support not only a transgender charity stream, but a transgender artist at the same time. You can use your platform to play a game by a transgender person that others may not even have heard of. For example, Celeste comes to mind. Tell Me Why also is a game that has transgender artists and actors.
Celeste is like was a very popular
the
game.
Indie free Bloodborne PS1 demake is even better too. Give attention to the indie creator of Bloodborne PSX, who is a transgender woman who made that game out of a passion and desire to learn to be a better creator and who wants to go on to do more cool projects beyond just Bloodborne demakes. And I honestly, by the way, recommend No Clip Gaming's wonderful documentary about her, by the way. Imagine if Hassan, one of the biggest streamers out there right now, streamed her game while doing a trans charity stream. Gave her attention and inspired other streamers to do the same.
Well, I mean, he still can in the future and he could before, but like Hogwarts Legacy is kind of the game that everyone's talking about, and you would want to maximize the amount of attention, therefore maximizing the amount of support that you could gain by growing your viewership and growing your influence a little bit. Like, all of those things are good and you can do all of those things. But like, if we're talking at this specific moment, like if like this is a like that's just, it's just not how content creation works. Like, at the end of the day, Hogwarts Legacy is what people's talked about it. I already have a video out. I really don't need to talk about this anymore. I've already had my piece with it. I'm not even playing the game. I'm a super small streamer, but like, I'm engaging with it mainly because it's still a big topic. I didn't think it would still be by the end of the week. I mean, I figured this wave was over, but like, even still, people are still talking about it, and that's why I'm talking about it, because it's the thing people are talking about. Because I want to hear perspectives, I want to hear people's opinions, but like, I'm not gonna go and play some other thing that's not at all tangentially related. Like, that's just not how being a content creator, even a streamer works. Like, you kind of got to ride the waves or be irrelevant. And like, if the difference between being irrelevant and not is making like what, $1 million raised for like the Turkish earthquake that happened recently, then yeah, like, that's the maximum good you can create. Do that. So like, I don't know, this feels like just a like, why don't you just be smaller and like, it's just asking people to do things that are going to be less successful and be less effective, because being less effective is, I guess, more in the I guess to a degree is just a little bit more pure, which yeah, kind of, but I don't like, again, it's always like, I don't know, like, having our side be successful and influential is kind of what I want.
Would it be better numbers than the Wizard game numbers? Maybe not, probably not. But it would be doing things on our terms.
No, it wouldn't. It just
Imagine
wouldn't.
Hassan streaming that game. It might help change the course of her career completely in a positive way. It would enable her and help a transgender creator be able to make more wonderful, beautiful things and put those beautiful things out in the world for other trans people.
Sure, does that like fix anything? Does that solve, like, one person gets helped, which I'm all for, but like, it's one person. Like, we make this critique all the time when the right wing like sees Mr. Beast give out like free eyeballs to people. Like, you're only helping that one individual. We want to maximize the good that we're doing, especially the larger the platform.
People to resonate with, and other people who aren't trans to find and discover and see what trans people can do. And I want to see those things that she can make, what she has to say. And all of that would be done while doing a charity stream for trans people. But maybe some of you out there are like, look, those games are awesome, but they're too small. The Wizard game is trending right now and relevant. Twitch will eat that up.
That is what I said.
We need to play a trending game. And okay, if that's your argument, I got you there too. Play Last of Us Part 2. That's a video game that is relevant right now because of the, I think, record-breaking HBO
Wait, why
TV
wouldn't
show.
you play Last of Us
It's a
Part
video
1?
game that stars numerous queer actors and characters, including a transgender one.
People who if you're like a show watcher, you don't want to watch Part 2. You do not want to watch a playthrough of Part 2. You do Part 2 maybe when you would. Okay.
Played by Star Trek's own Ian Alexander, who is boss, by the way. Especially
Amazing game, by the way.
And the game was also made with several trans developers behind the scenes, including at least one that I know of in a lead developer role. And there might be more. And that's not even to mention that the TV show that is relevant right now stars Bella Ramsey, who is non-binary, and Pedro Pascal, who is one of the most adorable human beings of all freaking time, and also a vocal ally to the trans community, who himself has a transgender family member. Play that game. It's just as trending and relevant as the, Wizarding one. Right now, as I said, I'm in an airport, and sorry for the terrible noise and weird cuts because the speakers have been coming on. But the reason I'm here is because I'm traveling to Los Angeles to visit the Star Trek Picard premiere that I was very kindly asked to attend by...
I just want to say, this has nothing to do with the topic, but I could never be this person. I don't think I have it in me to be this person. Like, I've seen people film themselves, at like airports, do like vlogs at like IRL, and like, I don't know, man. I don't know how people do it. I'd be so bad at this. I couldn't do like the on my phone sort of thing. Nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying, like, I could never do something like this. I don't know. Let essayists do it every once in a while. I see them whenever they're traveling and trying to make their content. Good God, I could never. I just feel too self-aware.
The creators behind the show with my fellow queer creator and Trekkie, Sean Ferrick, and others. Shout out to Trek Culture, by the way, for being amazing. And as I said, I was invited here by the creators of Star Trek, who I know for a fact donated to transgender charities and didn't play the Wizard game. I saw online one of the producers of Star Trek Lower Decks, my favorite Star Trek show right now, tweeted out about it because he fucking rocks. And it showcases to me that there are big franchises and creators working within them. And creators big and small, both within franchise, within big multimedia corporations and without, run by people who want to care and fight with the vulnerable. Support those people. And if you want to say, oh, support the devs of the Wizarding game, I talked about that in my big video. You see, the trick of our capitalistic attention economy is making you think you have to use where the attention already is to get anything done. To beg for scraps from someone else's table because they have the Eye of Sauron of the cultural discourse on them. But we don't have to play that game. We, as activists, we create our own attention. We can't take down the Wizarding franchise, at least not right now. We can't take down the person who created it.
It's not happening. I'm sorry, this is Cope. Doing the, at least right now, I'm sorry, it's over. Harry Potter is a fundamental part of probably 2 to 3 generations' literary upbringing. I'm sorry, the battle's over for that one. The best thing you can do is consume it in a healthy way and advocate against the creator's ideological wishes. That's really the only thing you can hope for. You can hope that somebody comes along and does to Harry Potter what Paul Verhoeven did to the guy who wrote Starship Troopers, who's an utter piece of shit, and, with the movie, and just utterly undermine their perspective, or their ideology, I should say.
It's not going to happen today. But the basis on which we build the chance to actually do that down the line does start today with our actions, what we create right now. And to do that, we create and fight on our terms. We cook our own meal with our community and others. We don't beg for leftovers from those who harm us. This isn't about a boycott of the Wizarding game. I'm not here for a boycott. I said as much in my last video. That's the wrong way to think about this. What this actually is about is creating our own future. Creating our own systems outside of these attention economy things. Making our own attention. Creating something stronger to build upon that works for us. Making opportunities for those who didn't have it before. And don't give more to those who already have too much. This isn't a lesson we should take away just in this situation. It's what we should remember always. If this video was just about this Hassan moment, I wouldn't have made this video. This is a goal we need to work towards always. We build on our own terms. We build our own systems of support. Oh, and by the way, this same argument goes for the trans character in the Wizarding game. Her name is Sirona. Sir Ona. I see the developers are going to the same school of naming that gave us the wonderful Kingsley Shacklebolt. The character is a tokenizing, oh, I have a fictional trans best friend nonsense, meant to trick you and others into saying all of this is okay.
That shit was fucking, I'm not gonna lie. The fact that they called her that, like, oh man, that was rough.
Think they're being allies by supporting an economy based on hate.
Let everybody be angry.
I spent the last few days getting told Avada Kedavra by bigots in my DMs and comments online. People calling me mudblood. People dehumanizing me. People telling me to kill myself using wizarding avatars. The Wizard franchise, while an oppressor doing active harm owns and controls it, sadly can't be reclaimed. It is a tool for them. It is their terms now, their language now.
I don't like
Let's
this.
not try to claim their tools to fight them. Let's make our own and share them with each other. Oh, and speaking of which, the download link to Bloodborne PSX is in the down below, and it ain't $70. That's money you could instead then use to donate using the charity links that I also...
Okay. Okay. How do I... Okay. That was... So, okay, let me get a... Let's get a recap really quickly. Overall, I didn't hate that. I didn't love it either. I think overall, like, fine points. I come away with it at the end of the day kind of being like, none of the solutions that were given, I don't think really were good counters to, you know, at the end of the day, you can do all of those things, you can play all of those things, you can support all of those things, but as a business, as a, not even a business, as a, I think, political movement, a ideological side of kind of US politics, the desire to keep our like purity while trying to grow the movement is always going to be a push-pull. It's always going to be something where we're going to have to make compromises for each of those. To grow more, the message is going to have to be broader. To be broader, it's going to have to be watered down to a degree. That's just kind of the way political messaging works. And I think people being more understanding of the brief moments when maybe the thing that they're more interested in, or the style of the way we deliver our rhetoric, has to take a back seat for a moment. I think, you know, when we kind of master a little bit of that balance, people will be able to kind of be more comfortable with that. I'm stuttering a little bit because I'm trying to collect my thoughts at the moment, because it is complicated, and a lot of this stuff is complicated, and trying to come from it as if I think there is one answer, and like there's like one answer that is correct and starting from another one that is incorrect, and we'll explain how one is wrong, the other has the alternatives or whatever, I think is a fundamental misunderstanding of how people kind of work. I think at the end of the day, we need to give the people the grace to consume and not be so judgmental about that in a certain way, and also not buy in our own heads into the system we're told is what's the word is ubiquitous. You know, there's an element to that. I hear a cat needling at the door, but either way, I think that was well thought out. I didn't love it, but I did like, I liked a lot of what the video said. They brought up a lot of good points. I don't think any of it was wrong, but I did disagree with bits of it, which, you know, something I think sometimes we on the left have to kind of be better about, especially when it's people on our side, is I didn't agree. And that's okay. Perfectly fine. We're allowed to do that. And, you know, just live with that. But anyway, you know the thing that they tell, you know, like at the end of all YouTube videos where they tell you to like click on one of these like things to watch more videos. yeah, I've been meaning to film one of those, so that's what I was doing. I was just setting it up to film one.